have here with us a resource person, Dr. Anu Kuriakose, who is here to deliver a talk on cross-dressing in Malayalam cinema. The talk is titled Gender Blending, the Many Significations of Cross-Dressing in Malayalam Cinema. Before we begin, a word of instruction to the participants. As usual, the Google feedback and attendance form will be posted towards the end of the session in the chat box. You fill in the form for giving your attendance and feedback. And we will be also having an interactive session after the talk. Participants can ask their questions to the resource person either by unmuting their mic or posting their comments in the chat box. Now, let me introduce to you our resource person, Dr. Anu Kuriakose. Dr. Anu Kuriakose is an assistant professor in the Department of English, Malayalam University, Andhra Pradesh. She has taken her PhD from Department of Humanities, Indian Institute of Space and Technology, Thiruvananthapuram. Her research interests are intersectional feminism, transgender and gender queer identity in popular socio-cultural discourses, transgender perspectives in literature and environment, gender inclusive language in professional communication and academic writing. Her research articles focusing on trans identities have appeared in reputed peer-reviewed journals such as South Asian Popular Culture published by Routledge, Economic and Political Weekly, and so forth. She is a reviewer of the Contemporary South Asia journal published by Routledge and has guest edited the magazine Sangadita that was themed on transgender identities. She writes about the visibility of Malayalam genderqueer people based in Kerala. She has been selected for an academic writing workshop for the earlier career researchers funded by the British Academy, the University of Edinburgh, UK, and KCHR of late. This is our first association with her, hopefully with many more to come. We are glad to meet you, Dr. Anu. On behalf of the Research and PG Department of English, St. Aloysius College, Thrissur, I welcome you to this event. Welcome, Anu. Now I officially hand over the session to her for her talk. You have to, you're muted, Anu. You have to unmute.
Okay. Thank you, Arati, once again for the introduction, and good evening, everyone. I see Dr. Betsy Paul here. Good evening, ma'am, and all the scholars as well as students. So basically, I work on transgender.
Even the principal is here. Dr. Chaco is here.
Okay. Good evening, sir, Dr. Jack. I cannot see his name here. That is why I just missed his name.
Okay, it's okay. He just came, I think, and then maybe to some technical error, he just left.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm here.
Good evening, sir. Yeah. So basically, I work on transgender people, but this particular presentation which I am making is part of my inquiry where I have just examined how female impersonators are present in theater and also in cinema. And also cross-dressing plays a part in cinema as well as theater. So let's go to the presentation and more details there. So I have a PPT, so I'm presenting my screen. Hope it's visible to you.
It's visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So, gender blending, the many significations of cross-dressing in Malayalam cinema. That is the title of the talk. So, my plan of talk would be, I will be introducing this particular topic and a brief intro about the terms that I am using in this particular presentation, and a brief overview of cross-dressing in theater and how it has influenced the cinema, and then a detailed discussion of a few films, and then the conclusion. So coming to the details of the talk, before that, I just wanted to bring your attention to a picture that has been in news for some reason. I'm not sure whether you are able to identify this picture. I'm not able to see if you respond, but if somebody could tell me are you able to identify the significance of this particular picture? This has been in news for some time.
Unisex.
Yeah, unisex or a gender neutral uniform. So when we discuss about uniform, and we believe that this is the real sense of gender equality or gender neutral uniform. So here, what is the significant thing is that we are actually looking at the visibility of the bodies, and we are connecting this with dress. So dress is, in a sense, is quite significant when we discuss identity in terms of gender, sex, religion, age, place, region, etc. So in my presentation, I'm going to discuss a few things which I have observed in my research journey regarding the pleasure, the visibility of bodies in connection with gender, and also with respect to dress they wear and how they perform cureness or gender, and also the pleasure we derive by looking at the performance in connection with dress. But this is not just reference to the dress also, but it is about the gestures and how you are performing your gender by connecting it with dress. Okay. So going before going into the details of the discussion, I'm just using these terms recurrently in my presentation. One is sex. We know that sex is a trait that determines an individual's reproductive function. So that is the basic understanding of sex. So from that term sex, we have another term in our scholarly discussion, that is gender. So gender is connected to sex in the sense that we assume that a particular a person who belongs to a particular sexual identity should perform a gender identity in a particular way. So we expect that. So it is a social assumption, a social construction. So you can say that the socially constructed norms and behaviors associated with the specific sex's gender. Okay. Now another term is cross-dressing, as the title indicates in this particular presentation. So if you just Google it, you will come across a definition like it's an act of wearing clothes not associated with one's gender or sex, but it is associated with opposite sex. So I'm just skipping the term opposite sex, because I feel that if you use the term opposite, which means that you're actually associating it with another gender, so you are trying to bring a binary gender or binary sexual perspective. So I just want to undo that, so I am skipping that part. And here you can also assume that the action or behavior without attributing any specific causes or motive that may make people to cross dress. And another term is transvestite, and usually people may confuse cross-dressing with transvestism. Transvestism in academic discourses, it shows that it is also wearing the clothes of other genders, or the gender that is, which is one who does not belong to. But this term is coined by Magnus Hirschfeld, and according to him, here the person who cross-dress tries to gratify their sexual pleasure in some way. Okay, so transvestism is to an extent synonymous with cross-dressing, but it is different in another sense. Okay, so this term was popularized in his 1910 book, and here he uses this term as associated with non-heterosexual behavior. Okay, so he uses it in a homoerotic or cure space. Now another term, I thought I would use a picture to explain this. So this is also kind of cross-dressing, and drag queen and drag king. So here it is drag queen in the pic. So this is also a cross-dressing, but it is typically a flamboyant outfit in a consciously exaggerated caricature. So usually in performance space, you use this in entertainment industry, etc. So drag and other forms of cross-dressing are considered as performance art. So you will also come across another term called camp, C-A-M-P. So here drag king or drag queen could be a subcategory of camp. So camp is also a kind of flamboyant cross-dressing, where you are actually trying to make something serious as non-serious, or something as a comic visual spectacle in the perspective of entertainment. Now, cure is a popular term in these days, and I am using this in connection with LGBTIQA politics and activism. So, it's an umbrella term to refer to non-heteronormative gender as well as sexual preferences in my analysis. Now, another two terms, feminine presenting men and masculine presenting women. So, I use these terms as politically correct terms in the West in academic discourses, because you might have heard about the term effeminate male. So by that term you denote to a person who performs femininity, who has a feminine gesture, feminine mannerism, etc. So in the West, that particular term is seen as some kind of politically incorrect or a dehumanizing term, and feminine presenting male or men or masculine presenting women or females are the terms. And here you are referring to people who express their gender in a more feminine or masculine way. So it doesn't mean that they should wear the clothes of another gender. They will be wearing the clothes that is socially acceptable, but they may be performing their femininity or masculinity. So these are a few general terms which you will see in my presentation. And now coming to the discussion of cross-dressing. So I am focusing more into cross-dressing and gender in connection with its visibility and the visual pleasure. Okay, so if you just look at cross-dressing, you can see that in theater performance in the West and also in Indian tradition, you will come across a number of cross-dressed performance. So you will come across female impersonators who have taken this as their profession, and some people identify as cure men or people who has a same-sex orientation. Okay, so you can see this as a precursor to cinema. And cross-dressing has been looked upon by different academicians in different ways. So in Susan Goober's 1981 book, you will find a discussion on cross-dressing, and where she looks at cross-dressing as a way of addressing the inequalities of culturally defined categories of masculinity and femininity. So she observes cross-dressing as a way to escape the social impositions. For example, if a female cross-dresses, which means that she gets some kind of advantage in the sense that she performs masculinity, so she gets all the kind of social advantages which a man gets in society. So and also it's the reverse if a man performs femininity. Then Gigi Bolt's significant observation is that dress is always connected to gender, and you can actually enact your gender identity through dressing. So cross-dressing is important in that sense in performance tradition. So if you look closely into different theater traditions in the West as well as in the East, you can see that cross-dressing has been used to evoke pleasure. It is used to evoke somebody's gender performance. Okay, and what you watch is that a sexed body performing a different gender identity. Okay, so in that sense you can also say that to an extent it deconstructs the fixity of gender performance, that a male body can perform feminine gender, a male body can perform a fluid gender, a female body can perform a masculine gender identity, etc. in that way. Now if you just I'm drawing certain examples from the Western tradition, where in many of the Shakespearean plays this cross-dressing was used. And you can also see that the image in front of is from the Merchant of Venice. So here you can see why at that time these people used cross-dressed characters in their performance. Just because at that time female actors were denied entry on stage. Okay, but at the same time you can also see interestingly that in the picture the role of Portia was performed by a young boy. Okay, and the young boy performs as Portia, so the young boy cross dresses. And in the particular court scene in front of you, the young boy comes as Balthasar. a male character, a young advocate. So here, for the spectators, they knew that this is Portia. So they imagine the female character cross dresses, but what they see in front of them is a real, a young boy in his own clothes. So cross dressing acts in different way. So to become Portia, the boy cross dresses. So he performs Balthasar in his own way, but in the play it is like the cross dressing. So it's the reverse. So in this way, in so many Shakespearean plays, you will find cross dressing, and also several academicians have noted that here the Cure performances evokes visual pleasure, a homoerotic pleasure, and also it is a homosocial space where you can expect all the kind of deconstruction or subversion of identities, and you're trying to bypass the moral codes that was set in that time. Okay, so what you find is that the feminine presenting male bodies, they evoke visual pleasure in the spectators, and thereby the body becomes a palatable surrogate for the women whose entry was restricted at that time. Okay, and coming to a few instances from the theatre tradition in India, and especially in Kerala, there was Kathakali as a performance tradition, and there, before this slide, I would just discuss that. So Kathakali was Kathakali used female impersonation, and Muralidharan Tarail, of course, you all know Muralidharan sir. He observes in his article that in such performance tradition, a feminized male body had been functioning as an object of desiring gaze. So he was observing this particular performance in terms of a Cure identity, so a Cure perspective. Now, the Striveshams in Kathakali, who would be watching this performance? Mostly, heteronormative people. So heteronormative here, for those people who are, unsure of this particular term, that is, we just imagine that heterosexuality as the norm. So that is heteronormativity. So the Striveshams in Kathakali had been a highly fetishized object of desire in early years of 20th century. And these performances evoke moham or allure or desire among the male spectators. So he was focusing more about the spectators, the male spectators. Now, coming to the female impersonation in theatre, several studies are there, but I just wanted to point out Ochira Velukutty, who was a famous female impersonator in a few decades back. And his biopic was published by Dr. K. Srikumar, and one movie titled Nadan was released, and Santosh Kiratur played the role. And later, Santosh Kiratur actually made a play. Only he is a single actor in this particular play, and that is titled as Pen Nadan. It's an interesting performance to watch, and how the female impersonator or the cross-dresser in the play, in real life, how he becomes a Cure female impersonator in real life, not just in drama. So in that sense, I'm focusing on the visibility of Cure or gender performance through cross-dressing. Now, all these theatre performances have largely influenced Malayalam cinema. So you can see the theatre as a precursor of such cross-dressed performance. So when you come to cinema, what is which is something that you can observe is that always cross-dressing was a tool of laughter, a trope of laughter, whether it's old Malayalam movies or whether it's new Malayalam movies. So the nature of the laughter, that is what gets changed. And here you can again see that through cross-dressing, to an extent, they are trying to reinforce a particular gender identity, and also they are trying to subvert gender identity. It may be, you may feel surprised, or you may feel it as ironic, because how clothing could conceal one's gender identity, and at the same time how clothing can manifest a particular gender performance. So for a gender expression they are actually using cross dressing, and here actually I'm avoiding all those cure characters. I'm specifically focusing on those characters who do not express gender confusion or identity confusion. In my analysis I'm focusing on those films where the directors have conveniently used certain characters cross-dressed in order to evoke laughter. So I am just looking at the politics of such laughter as well as representation. So Malayalam cinema's central purpose, as I have just discussed, is to disguise the identity primarily, and also evoke laughter through the confusion created by the identity, and also the pleasure by looking at such bodies, and especially if it is a female impersonation or a female cross-dressing. So I mean cross-dressing by male characters as females. Okay, so what you find is that it subverts the gender performance by the male body, but at the same time it evokes what is the stereotypical imagination of femininity, the popular imagination of femininity. So in that sense you can see in early Malayalam films Adur Basi became a brand in such performance, and also you can see Prem Nasir joining in hand with him in performing femininity. So I mean, these are a few snippets from some of the performance of Adur Basi in early Malayalam film. So he has explored the nuances of feminine gender performance through as elderly women, and also as a seductress in one particular movie, Taxi Car. And on the right top, you find this is from a song sequence where he performs as a woman who dances an item number in a brothel. So in that sense, the cinema experiments with the possibilities of using a male body for seduction, and who are being seduced here, it is nothing but the male spectators there. So it's ironic that when you have female characters in the movie, why do you focus on a male body performing femininity? So it's my observation is that perhaps the real female characters, female actors are there, but still when a male body evokes this kind of moham on male spectators, some kind of pure visual pleasure would have been involved in this. So the director would be experimenting with that sense. And also partly it is drawn from the theater tradition that was prominent before that. So in the 1950s, 1960s, and also 1970s film, you can see this trend, Adu Basi performing femininity in these movies. And but when you come to the other films in the 1990s onwards, in the 80s, what you find is that the trend declines. Okay, so we'll see the reason for that. And here again, I would like to draw from Muralidharan Tarail, that is, he observes cross-dressing in comedy shows and cinema in the 1990s, why it occurs in so many movies. So according to him, this cross-dressing, or he also calls it as transvestism interchangeably, and he says, such performances are supposed to undermine the very foundation of binary imagination of gender, and he calls them drag performances. Okay, so while in drag there is a sardonic appropriation of cross gender appearance of behavior. For example, a bearded male in a nun's garb. So just the man, he keeps his external manifestation of gender, that is his mustache and all, but at the same time he just cross dress. Okay, so this is capable of lying bare the performativity of gender. So the person and also the spectators know that this is simply a performance, and thereby it initiates a powerful critique of the notions of gender behavior and appearance. So he is actually critically observing the gender expression or through cross dressing or through drag performance. Now coming to 1990s films, you can find that cross-dressing is used in several ways. So the way which Muralidharan sir has pointed out, that is also there. And in another sense, you can also find that the male actors, they just wax their bodies, and also they completely transform or trying to embrace femininity in every sense. Okay, and why in 1980s such performances were absent? The one thing I could point out is that in 1990s, so many realist movies were there, and also films by G. Aravindan, Bharathan, etc. They were trying to focus into serious thing, and also they tried to avoid cross-dressing, which is a less a frivolous thing. So in many of the 1980s films, you won't find much cross-dressing. Okay, maybe one or two films would be there. And the films of that time was Middlebrough films. And again, you find 1990s as a decade where so many social changes occurring in Kerala. Okay, so that has affected the Malayalam movies also. And what you find is that the emergence of laughter films in Malayalam. So according to C.S. Venkateswaran, the realist movies or the Middlebrough films in the 1980s is a probable cause of the decline of cross-dressing in 1980s films. Whereas in Jenny Rowena's observation, what you can find is that the 1990s films, they were focusing on masculinity and also the crisis in masculinity in terms of gender subversion. Okay, so according to her, she observes laughter films, and she argues that the laughter films overhaul the existing modes of masculine identity. So you will find cross-dressed males and also men who perform subversive gender identity, I mean, without even cross-dressing. Okay, some people will be feminine presenting males. I hope you remember the term which I just mentioned at the discussion on terminologies. And now I just wanted to bring your attention to a particular clip from the movie Cheriya Logavum Valiya Manusharum. So I shall just present that clip for you. And let's see the way the cross-dressing and the laughter and also the politics involved in this particular scene.
താമസിക്കുന്ന സ്ഥലം എനിക്ക് ഒരു പട്ടം തങ്ങുന്ന സ്ഥലമാവുമ്പോൾ എന്തെങ്കിലും നേട്ടം ഉണ്ടാവാതിരിക്കില്ല, ഒരു ദോഷവും വരില്ല.
So a group of fraudulent men is trying to they are trying to enter into a ladies hostel. Okay, so you will find cross-dressed men and also the female characters in this particular scene.
ഞങ്ങൾക്കൊരു നാടകമുണ്ടായിരുന്നേ, സ്ത്രീവേഷാണ്, രാത്രി ആയതുകൊണ്ട് വഴി തെറ്റി കയറിയതാണ്. ഫോട്ടോ കുട്ടികളെ കുട്ടിക്ക് സാരി ഇഷ്ടായെങ്കിൽ സാരി എടുത്തോളൂ. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ക്ഷീണുണ്ട്, നാടകം വരുമല്ലേ, വടി.
So here you can see the way how innocence, facial expressions, and how she is trying to impersonate femininity when he responds to this female character. So the spectators who watch this, they will feel that who is a real feminine here? Is it the female characters, or is it the comedian Innocent? And also you will find Mukesh, who was playing the hero roles in a few movies there, but his cross-dressing is different from Innocent, and I would like to call it as a radical drag, or where he just maintains his mustache there. And see the next few sequences.
ഇല്ല കുട്ടി, എന്തെങ്കിലും കാണില്ലേ? ഇല്ലെന്നല്ലേ പറഞ്ഞത്?
Okay, so once you observe this particular visual, or you could observe that how the real female characters are juxtaposed with this men who cross dress, and also you would note that how the bodies of this cross dressed people are exaggerated, their bosom, and also how this person is disrobed, and how actually the femininity or the nudity is revealed in front of the spectators, and how that evokes a visual pleasure. Okay, now when we come to another movie, Amayana Satyam, there also, this movie is famous for a female character impersonating male identity, masculine identity. But at the same time, in one song sequence also, you will find Mukesh performs, or Mukesh, the actor, trying to teach the central character how to be feminine. So what you find is that, what is the real femininity that a hero teaches the heroine? So in that sense, like all these movies are trying to reinforce what is a popular imagination of femininity. So when feminine bodies are juxtaposed with cross-dressed bodies of male actors. Now, again, when you come to a few films in the 1990s, mostly comedy movies, Hitler Brothers, Mangalam Vittal, Manisheshwari Gupta, Three Men Army. So in all these movies, what you can notice that actors who perform comedy roles, they cross dress in minor sequences and all, and this cross dressing through exaggerated performance of femininity that evokes laughter in the spectator. So another thing is that the directors have carefully chosen subversive male bodies, or the less masculine bodies, to perform this kind of laughter. Okay, but these are some of the instances of Jagadish Srikumar performs femininity, and after Adur Basi, you can see him as a brand in many number of movies. And coming to other films in the 1990s, I would like to make another observation that I just pointed out that subversive male bodies perform femininity, and that evokes laughter. And at the same time, some certain directors have made the hero performs femininity in certain films. For example, Mohanlal's three films, Vandanam, Manichitrathazhu, Ayal Katha Ezhudukayanu, etc. Here you will find the hero in drag in certain sequences. I have the clip from Ayal Katha Ezhudukayanu, where you will find the hero, he is in a drunken state and he has worn the clothes of the heroine. But even in that cloth, he's not performing femininity, but he just performs his identity as it is. But it creates gender confusion. So the cloth can evoke gender confusion. So that in a sense, such a performance you can note as an effort to de-stereotype the masculine body and evoke laughter. Okay, so again, another take or another observation from Narayanathu Thamburan, another film, like similarly in this film also the hero performs femininity, the female impersonation, but that is different from the Mohanlal movies as I just mentioned. So I have another clip, I'll quickly show that.
നീ റെഡിയായിരിക്കും. അയ്യോ സോറി മോളെ, ഞാൻ അല്പം ലേറ്റ് ആയി പോയി. പിണങ്ങി നിൽക്കുക. അയ്യോ എന്റെ പൊന്നു വൈഫേ, നീ പിണങ്ങാതെ. ഒരു ഒറ്റ കുളി കഴിഞ്ഞ നമുക്ക് രണ്ടുപേർക്കും കൂടി ഒട്ടനെ നീ പറഞ്ഞ സിനിമയ്ക്ക് പോകാം. പിണങ്ങാതെ പൊന്നെ, ഞാൻ പറയുന്നു ഒന്ന് കേക്ക്. എന്നാ നിന്റെ പിണക്ക് ഇന്ന് മാറ്റിയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യം എന്നോട് പിണങ്ങാൻ മാത്രം നീ കാര്യം. പിണങ്ങുവല്ലേ? ഞാനൊന്ന് മാറ്റി തരാൻ. നോവിക്കാതില്ല മോളെ. അയ്യോ നീയോ? എനിക്കെങ്ങനറിയാം ഞാൻ നീയാണെന്ന് കരുതി? നീയാ പരമദ്രോഹി.
പിന്നെ താങ്കളുടെ കിടക്കണോ ദേ കിടക്കണോ എന്റെ പൊന്നോ നോക്കണം നോട്ടല്ലേ അമ്മായി ഈ അമ്മാവൻ ചീത്തയാ കള്ളന കശ്മലന പീഡന.
So, if you just closely observe this particular clip, what you can see is that, see here, the dialogue delivery and the way this particular character, actor Jairam, how he, the dialogue delivery, the poses and the nuances, where you can see that he's actually trying to perform exaggerated femininity. And the same way of dialogue delivery repeats in another movie, Dilip movie Chandu Potter, which was despised by the cure people and also transgender community, that such a type of impersonation dehumanizes them, harasses them, etc. So this was a trop of laughter in certain Malayalam films. Okay, and I have a few other clips also, but I don't think we have sufficient time to show these things, so I'm just moving on the presentation. Okay, so I was talking about Naranatha Tamburan. So here, this particular female impersonation by the hero. So how the hero's female impersonation is used as a trope of laughter. It is nothing but an extension of his eccentricity, his playfulness, etc. And in a few other films like Mera Naam Joke, Sutradhar, and for example, Kilikam Kilikam, Hello. So in all these films, you will come across such cross-dressed performance of male actors to evoke laughter. And Ballet 10 is in this particular film, you will see a song sequence. I had the song sequence. Do we have time to show that? If we have time, I can show that. There in that particular song sequence, Harishri Ashokan cross-dresses, and you will find how camera focuses on the body of the actor, the bosom, the back, and also how the other male actors who are part of the song sequence, how they actually playfully touches this particular actor while they impersonate femininity, and how this evoke, or to an extent how it goes to the level of obscenity, etc. So you will find some kind of sexist laughter. The nature of the laughter changes, and it becomes some kind of sexist humor to an extent. Okay, and in some other movies I've listed here, The Truth, there you will find again female cross-dressing for the purpose of disguise. But another thing is that here you won't find the body as glamorized or as a trope of laughter. But another thing is that it's a crime thriller, and where the feminine body is used just because it is maybe the female character may not be suspected as a villainous person. So again, this also reinforces the popular imagination of femininity as not villainous, or a woman cannot do a crime, etc. So that is the trope. And again, in Tilana Boyfriend, etc., so such films show college hostels where male characters, they simply cross dress as a part of their scheme. So there also you will find, or you will come across number of sequences where the feminine body becomes a subject of sexist laughter and also humor. Okay, and the male characters, they derive pleasure by desiring the feminized male bodies. So for the spectators, they know that these are cross-dressed men. So you will also find some kind of homoerotic pleasure working out in such plots. And in Kilikam, I cannot help myself showing this. I'll just show that also as a final clip. So, I mean, there are some other close-up shots in this particular movie, where again you will find how the body of the male actors, Jagdish Srikumar as well as Cochin Hanifa, how this is used to evoke pleasure, and mostly sexist humor, where the camera focus on the bosom and also the back of the actors, and how such close-up shots may be, or they are used to evoke pleasure. Okay, again, going back to the slide. I don't know whether you are bored seeing this. Okay, now another movie is Chocolate. Here again, I just wanted to point out one thing, the image, the close-up shot which you see on the right side. This is from Chocolate movie, where you find actor Jayasurya, who just imitates how a female model should walk on the ramp. Okay, and the camera initially closes the hip swaying walk, and where when this act, I mean, the spectators, we don't realize that this is a male body. Okay, initially, with the how he performs a hip swaying walk, and then later it is shown that this is performed by a male character. Okay, and when the male character realizes that a group of female characters are looking at him, and suddenly he feels some embarrassed, and he tries to cover up his performance. Okay, and he's trying to show his masculinity, to exhibit his masculinity. And again, in another sequence in the same movie, you will find a macho character in the film, the hero, who is forced to wear a female undercloth. And then he is not at all embarrassed to wear this. And at the same time, he is using this to exhibit his masculinity further. So, what I just wish to point out is that the cross dressing, okay, that is used in this film, but in different sense. When a male character who performs a subversive male character, He is a second hero in this particular film. So here the embarrassment, that is depicted through this, and also the same cross-dressing is used to endorse one's macho identity, masculinity. So that is ironical, how it is being used. And again, when you come to certain post 2010 movies, again the thing is that the focus on laughter, that is changing to sexist laughter only, purely sexist laughter, and the feminized male bodies evoke misogyny in spectators. Okay, so you will find Maya Mohini, and that film I don't want to show here, in the sense that so many obsessive scenes and also dialogues are there. Okay, so in Maya Mohini, the Marilyn Monroe's performance is evoked, and in Ulsaha Committee you will find a male actor cross-dressed. Then again in Chanakya Tantram, in a minor sequence, the popular macho actor Uni Mukundan cross-dresses. Okay, so in all these sequences, what you find is that feminized bodies are objectified for the sake of performance, and the camera focuses on their bosom, their belly, the hips, lips, etc. So I mean, the popular imagination is that femininity or the seductive nature of femininity is there in these body parts. Okay, so that is what people, or the heterosexual majority, that is how they derive pleasure. So this is some kind of, to an extent, especially in Maya Mohini, the effort could be equated with a camp performance. That is, the director has tried to make this a pleasurable visual spectacle, or an object of laughter, and he is trying to make this performance a non-serious thing. And but at the same time, this has gone beyond the limits, and you will find misogyny at its peak in such performance. And you will also find feminine presenting men who do not cross dress, but they perform femininity in movies like Salt and Pepper, 101 Wedding, Tamar Padar, Matai Kurappakarnalla, etc. So you can even perform femininity without even cross dressing. Okay, so I can say that feminine presenting males of this decade, they show masculine anxieties, the anxieties of the time. So why male characters, or especially the hero characters, how they experiment with the femininity or female impersonation. So you could see it as the kind of masculine anxieties of the time. So another thing is that in Ulsaha Committee and Chanakya Tantram, you will find the makeup videos are exposed, of the makeup videos or the transformation videos of these actors are exposed and publicly circulated, and it's popular consumption that this macho actor gets up as a female. Okay, so it's quite interesting to watch that transformation. So what kind of pleasure we get or we derive by watching the transformation? So again, the visual politics, and also the heteronormative pleasure, and also to an extent the pure pleasure involved in this, all these require serious academic inquiry when we study this. Now coming to discussion of the female characters, how they cross dress. I had discussion on several Malayalam films where male actors cross dress, but if we look into the history of Malayalam cinema in terms of female cross dressing, that is female actors perform masculinity through cross dressing, that is very less in number, in the sense that though cross-dressing is used by female characters as a kind of liberation or as a temporary disguise, the patriarchal imposition of how to perform femininity is playing a huge role in such films. And finally, in all these films, you can find that the hero finds out that these people are performing and they are just putting up a show, and it's just impersonation. So and you will find heterosexual romances, and ultimately the cross-dressing fails. Okay, and there are less films they use it as a trope of laughter compared with male cross-dressing. So in Pannapuram Kota, a film in the 1970s, you will see the female character, the central female character cross dresses, but ultimately in a song sequence that is found out by the hero. Okay, then you will find the clandestine space and also the ensuing romance between the couple, and finally, the heterosexual reunion occurs at the end of the film. And in Ammayane Satyam, Daya, Rasatandram, the films of the 1990s and early 2000s, again you will find this trope getting repeated. So in Ammayane Satyam, I have a sequence to, this is from Pannapuram Kota, the image on the left, and then the other one is from Daya. And also, this I wanted to draw your attention into this particular scene. See, in this particular cinema, Ammayane Satyam, actress Annie performs as a male character. This is to escape from their opponents. Okay, a few people are in search of this particular character, and she's trying to escape from the molesters and abusers. So here in this particular movie, the impersonation is for a temporary solace or escape. So the female character is trying to achieve a liberated space which is claimed by men in society. So again, the patriarchal imposition or the social privileges are playing the central part, you can see. But incidentally, if you just observe how a female character performs femininity, this character cannot hide their femininity in the sense that how they are sitting while they are cleaning the utensils, and also the femininity fails when they fall into the seawater and they fails to bind the bosom. So such failures are also highlighted in the movies. Even in Rasatandram also you will find the same. So and a few other films like but in few films Kalpana has used this as a trope of comedy, especially in Argasha Ganga. But what I would like to point out is that it is not just Kalpana's cross dressing, but the situational comedy, the dialogues, and also the intervention of other characters that creates comic pleasure in that sequence. Unlike the male cross-dressing, in this sense, female cross-dressing is a failed trope to evoke laughter. So again, you will find the movie Mera Naam Joker that uses female cross-dressing, Chiri Kudka, and incidentally, the latest movie that has used female cross-dressing is Shweta Menon's novel In the Jewel. And I couldn't watch this particular movie because its print wasn't available. But what I learned is that here, again, Shweta Menon's character uses this to disguise their identity, as I was pointing out, for the female characters impersonating a male identity, offer them a liberated space. They hide their feminine identity so that they can escape from abusers. Okay, so the female cross-dressing is used as a trope to claim all those privileges which are otherwise denied to female characters. So that's about a brief discussion on the cross-dressing in Malayalam films. And I have avoided the cross-dressing, or you cannot call it as cross-dressing, the transvestism in movies where you will find pure characters as well as transgender character. And I was focusing on those films in which actors or characters who identify as cisgender, heteronormative, male or female, performs gender identity which is different from the socially constructed gender identity of their body. Okay, so you can again find that Malayalam cinema has had a fascination for female as well as male impersonation, but both are from different aim. Okay, so it's a popular comic trope in the case of male cross-dressing. But the limitation of female cross-dressing to evoke laughter, maybe that is why there is very limited number of female cross-dressing in Malayalam cinema. And also, as I have pointed out, these cinematic cross-dressing, okay, so the presence of cross-dressed characters in cinema, to an extent, they have muted the characters who experienced gender dysphoria or gender confusion. for quite a long time. You will find transgender characters or characters who feel gender confusion appearing in cinema only in the 2000s. Okay, till then you had characters who cross dress. Okay, and we were never aware of whether these characters themselves experienced some kind of gender confusion or gender identity crisis within themselves. Okay, now you can find these cross-dressing or cross-dressed performances as are precursors of transgender identity movement in Malayalam cinema, but these performances by the actors never depict transgender characters. So I just stop my presentation here. If there is any questions or anything which you can point out as a correction or clarification in this particular slide, we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Anu, for that very interesting and exciting talk about cross-dressing in Malayalam cinema. Now it is the time for interactions. Participants, if you have any questions to the speaker, you can ask your questions to the speaker.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening. First of all, it was a very insightful, informative, and a very systematic lecture. We got to know about cross dressing, not just in films, even though the title was about films, we got to know how, in various fields of popular culture related to Kerala, how cross dressing is being used, whether it be in theatre or art forms like Kathakali, as well as films. Thank you so much for that lecture. I just wanted to make an observation and ask a question. The observation that I found while you were giving ample number of examples was that mostly cross-dressing has been used by males who impersonate females, mostly, though there are exceptions. And this is generally in terms of a woman who is a seductress. The primary aim of the male is to seduce somebody or to give an impression that women are objects who need to be seduced or who try to seduce males. That I just I was just observing while you were playing the videos. It was never boring. Since you asked, it was very engaging, in fact, to watch the videos in between. And the question that I would like to ask is about certain films where we can find not cross dressing, in fact, but instead, let me give you some examples. There are these films like Deshadanakili Karayarilla by P. Patmarajan or Sibi Malayil's Pranaya. In these films, we find intense female friendships. They are not, in fact, lesbian, but they are very intense. Maybe we can call them homosocial or homoerotic. So, in such films, we find that one of the partners in Deshadanakili Karayarilla, we find Shari not exactly cross dressing, but she dresses up like a male. She gets a boycott and she always wears clothes that are usually revealing or maybe a little man like, those clothes that we usually associate with man, the masculine gender traditionally. Or if we take the case of Pranaya Varnangal, we find the character of Divya Unni going out. She's a very extrovert character who goes out on her scooter, makes fun of boys, and even she uses her sexuality to get her things done. So, and these are the women who take a dominant role compared to their counterpart, be it the character of Kartika in Deshadnikili or the character of Manju Arya in Pranaya Varnanga. So, do you think that this masculinization happens And this through sartorial patterns, through dressing, not if not cross dressing, dressing like a man. You were mentioning how dressing like the other gender brings certain advantages, and hence people do that in films. So, do you think that Malayalam cinema has this tendency to always make heterosexuality the norm, even if the partners who are involved are both female or both male? There is one dominant partner, like in the heterosexual husband wife relationship. The husband always dominates over the wife. So, similarly, is there a tendency? Do you think that there is a tendency in Malayalam cinema to always heteronormative, to portray heteronormative relationships, even if they are lesbian or homosocial or any other, even queer relationships? Is there always a, a dominant partner versus the subordinate partner? Do you think so? Or is Malayalam cinema trying to change the equations with films like Nyan Meri Kuti? What is your take on it? I would like to know that. Thank you, ma'am.
Obviously, thank you for that question. May I know who is the speaker? Actually, I'm seeing
I'm Arya.
Arya, okay. Thank you, Arya, for that insightful, question in the sense that you have given a explanation within your question itself. You had an introduction for the question. Okay, so that is self-explanatory. That is what I think. But still, I agree with your observation that it is true that, of course, in Malayalam cinema, what you find is that heterosexual romances are being celebrated. Okay, so we know that is why we call heteronormative. So that is the normal thing. So you never say that homonormative, because we don't have homosexuality as or the pure relationship as the normal. Okay, so what is being celebrated by the majority, what is claimed by the majority, that is the popular romance, and that is what we enjoy always. Okay, and the relationship or the movies which you have pointed out, Deshadanakali Kararilla and Pranaya Varnangal. So several other films from the male characters, several buddy films are also there, where male characters perform, one is macho and the other one is a subversive male. Similarly, in the films which you have pointed out, where one is some kind of a timid feminine character, so that is what we call femininity to be. Okay, the gender expression should be in that way. And the other one, where we see it as a de-stereotyped femininity, I should say. The other one is stereotyped femininity. So the de-stereotyped femininity, where we feel that this character has some masculine performance or gender expression, which does not go with the popular imagination of femininity. So several theories are also there. So what we can observe is that even in such representation also, we are trying to impose the heteronormativity in performance and also in gender expression. So we tend to believe that even if a queer couple come, both cannot be masculine in their gender expression. One has to be a feminine presenting male. Okay, so then only that person will become a gay person or a queer person. Okay, then again, if we look at lesbian relationship, so there is one film called Sanjara. So it is said that that film celebrate lesbian relationship or a true relationship. Okay, true lesbianism. But again, in that film also, you will find this binary frame working. Okay, so what you have observed is the right thing. Malayalam cinema always popularize or celebrate heterosexual romances or heteronormativity, and the homosexual sexuality or homosexual orientation or pure friendships or whatever it is, in performance space we call it as non-heteronormative. Okay, so it is non-heteronormative, for in that sense it is non-normative for us. Okay, so your observation is obviously correct. That's it. I hope I have answered to you. You are muted, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Any more questions?
It's a wonderful talk, Anu. It is so brilliant and so enriching. I'm so happy that you came here. As Aditi said, you should come again some other time too. We'll be very happy to see you and welcome you again. And for lack of time, maybe I should ask the others, those who have, I am sure that so many have questions now. They will pose the questions in the chat box and then maybe we will send that to you and I hope that you will answer them too.
Sure, ma'am, sure. And thank you,
So,
ma'am. Actually, I had visited St. Aloysius 4 years back for
really?
a conference. So that was an
Ah,
amazing experience for me. The images
okay.
of the self,
Images of self.
national
Okay.
conference,
Self
and
and other.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Anu.
Uh-huh. And I would also point out one limitation of my presentation is that the paucity of time. And here I have just excused several other films, so the list I have just shown is not exhaustive. Okay, so you can even see many other films where different dimensions of this gender expression in cross dressing. That is an area which requires serious inquiry, but what I have shown is just the tip of the iceberg.
That's why I said we should call you again. Sometime later, we will call you again.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Aditi. Aditi has something to say.
Anu, thank you for coming in. You prepared a very well researched and articulated talk on cross dressing in Malayalam cinema. It was very exciting and not boring at all. There are some aspects of cross dressing which we might have otherwise never even noticed while seeing such Malayalam cinema. So you brought all that up very beautifully. And on this occasion, I would like to specially thank you for taking all the efforts for putting in such a wonderful presentation. I'm also happy to finally meet you too. And I hope this leads to more such collaborations with you, and best wishes for all your future projects too.
Okay, thank you. I wish to, just point out a few words. Like I have to thank the organizers, especially Arati, for inviting me to give me this platform, and I wish to thank Dr. Betsy Paul for the, uh, appreciations you have showered upon me, and also Arya. I think it is Arya. I didn't miss her name. So Arya for the question and others for the comments. And I think the principal sir was there, Dr. Chaco Jospi. So I thank you, sir. And IQAC coordinator, Mr. Melvin. I propose my vote of thanks here. So thank you for the opportunity. And thank you, the other listeners. I'm not able to see you, but still, I think you might have enjoyed at least the clips. If the presentation, your feedback seems like it wasn't boring, but still, I was quite uncomfortable that I couldn't keep up with the time, but still, it's fine. So, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Anu.